All right, everyone. Tell us when you're ready, big guy.
I'm ready.
Ready.
Go. Ready.
In that case, in 3, 2, and 1.
Hey, folks, welcome back to your Frederick Real Estate Update. I am Darren Ahern with 3 Max Results, bringing you almost 23 years experience in the Maryland, PA, and all over the country regions in the real estate world. And I have with me, sitting right here, back from the beach and vacation and birthday times and everything else he's been celebrating in life, Mr.
Terry Kernan.
How is everything over at Presidential Bank?
Everything's great. Everything's great.
Doing
And as
good.
Mark Wharton always said when he was on the show, we lend in all 50 states.
Yes, we help people in all 50 states get a good agent and our referral partners. And Terry and those guys are awesome at Charter, and they can do your loan no matter where you are. They will help you out. So make sure that you get in touch with them. So welcome to your your weekly dose of real estate news. Terry, this is all I can say today. The subject we're going to hit upon that I'm dealing with right now and going over, today's going to be bonkers. That's the best way to describe today's program. It's going to be bonkers. I hope you got some bonkers information on real estate for mortgage stuff and the lending world and what's happening. Just good news. We just want good news. We've got good news happening. All right. So we're going to do the numbers real quick. But before we do, make sure you get into the WFMD.com, the drop-down menu in your Frederick Real Estate Update. And you've got the past programs, Terry, 424, because today is 425th here in August. So here we go. Big shout out to my brother, his big birthday. We're doing the NCAA Big College Draft this weekend today in Pittsburgh. We're going to have a heck of a time. My dad's going to be there. He always picks the winners. And of course, we all are fighting over who can have the team called the Fighting Irish.
Go Irish.
There it is, Indiana Fighting Irish. We went that green and gold, baby. Those are my high school colors too, by the way. All right, let's get into that stuff here. All active homes, Terry, real quick snapshot that everybody wants to know. 631. Last week was 657. Terry, could you please tell us why did inventory this last week go down a little bit?
Less people putting their house on the market, but we do have a lot of coming soon, but I think there's a little more uptick in interest. I got 2 contracts in the past week, which, it had been quiet for about 3 weeks. So,
yeah.
So it totally explains why inventory is going down.
But school just went back in. How in the world? Nothing makes sense.
It doesn't.
It doesn't make
no rhyme
sense.
or reason.
There's no more seasonality. Oh, the kids are going to school. No, people are like, they want what they want, when they want it, how they want it, and they don't care anymore, right? And that may be good, that may be bad, I don't know. But here we go, 631. 88 coming soon, 417 under contract, so we're above 400. That's all that last minute stuff this summer getting kicked in. But the other big thing is the sold in the last 30 days, 301, and I just had 2 settlements this week. So we're adding to that number, and it's above 300, but is it going to stay there? Only time will tell. I do think it very much could if we get those interest rates down just a tiny bit more. I saw a report, Terry, that 5.5 million buyers would jump in potentially into the buy-in pool of homes if rates go below 6%. Interesting stuff. I don't know. It's going to be more than that.
That number could be conservative.
Do you think that could be conservative?
I think that could be conservative. I do.
We could have 7 million buyers jump in the swimming pool?
But I think that if we get below that ceiling.
That's 6.
If we get below 6, I think that we're going to see a lot of buyers. I think we're going to see a lot of refinances.
Yep.
I think we're just going to see a lot of activity in general.
Yeah.
Throughout the mortgage industry and the real estate industry.
It's going to wake everything up a little bigger than we are now.
Yes.
98.1% sold the list price ratio. So that's not too terrible bad, but down just a tiny bit. Yeah, it's down a little bit.
It's not going up.
No. So buyers, I'm telling you, I'm putting an offer in things. Buyers are looking for, I want a lower price. I want concessions. I want something. I am not overpaying and this, that. And even, Terry, even when they find out there's multiple offers, I've got some buyers now that are like, you know what? We don't want to compete. We'll just go ahead and sit on the sidelines and the right thing will come along because more inventory is coming out, it feels like. So I'm like, I don't know. You never know what someone's going to do out there. So here we go. All right. What's happening in the mortgage world?
So the mortgage world is looking to September to see what the Fed's going to do with the cuts. Okay. So what's going on is you've got some pressure being put on, continuing pressure being put on by the Trump administration. As I've said on the show numerous times, Chairman Powell really needs to cut rates in September. And I think that it's going to be his idea to cut rates rather than Powell. But what's going on right now is constant pressure from the administration. So let's talk about the headline that we're seeing right now that just kind of factors into that is, so we've got the FHFA, that's the Federal Housing Finance Agency. Okay. So what does the FHFA do? It's an independent agency of the government that is responsible for overseeing Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the federal home loan banks. Okay, so the chairman of that of this agency is a gentleman named Bill Pulte. Well, he came out this week and he is basically accusing one of the Fed chairs, one of the Fed governors, very high up in the Federal Reserve, Fed Governor Lisa Cook, and she basically, according to reports, is she had a condo out of state in Michigan that she claimed as her primary residence.
Okay.
Now, why would you do that? You would do that to get a lower interest rate and better tax implications. Right? So it appears that she's being accused of, and that's essentially mortgage loan fraud.
Oh,
okay. So the pressure continues on the feds.
Yeah.
But what do we know most about Lisa Cook is that she is she's been against cutting rates.
Huh.
So the question people are asking is, well, if she was for cutting rates, would they be asking her to resign? I don't know that answer, but what we're going to find out. We're going to see how this plays out. But you really don't want somebody that's that high up in a position to get to be allowed to commit
fraud.
You
said fraud. Yeah.
Fraud. And it is loan fraud. If you are not truthful on your application and you basically mislead or misguide, your lender, then it's going to be an issue. So we're going to see how that plays out. But what have we seen? We have seen that that up rate, or we've seen an increase in demand here.
Yes, we have.
And we're starting to see it. What has slowed down a little bit? Refinances. Why have they slowed down? Because people are waiting for the rates to come down.
Right.
Now, a lot of people think that rates are going to be coming down in September. The Federal Reserve is going to cut the rate. As I talked about last week, if we get a 0.25% cut, that'll be in line with what they're thinking. If for some reason they do a 0.5% cut to try to catch up for the cuts that they haven't done, then we will actually see our rates go up temporarily.
Yeah.
But what we want is consistent. We want momentum going down. I think we've got that. People say, do I float? I'm settling, in middle September. Probably don't want to float so much because there's not going to be a lot of movement till the end of September when we know what direction that we're going in.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah. So full-time residency, let's clarify that. Is that, if you live in a home primary resident, would that be 6 months and 1 day?
That's basically 6 months and 1 day.
So you got to live there, Miss Cook, 6 months and 1 day to declare that status.
That's usually declaring, state residency. So let's say I want the tax breaks that I get in Florida. So I buy a house in Florida and I have to live there 181 days.
181 days.
Okay, you got to live there.
Yeah.
And I know the state of Maryland from friends that have moved to Florida and kept their house in Maryland. State of Maryland's going to be, all over you if you try to change your status because they're losing, 9% of your state income tax. They're losing it to the state of Florida. And Florida, you're going to escape that state tax. So that's a huge difference. That's what people are doing. So if I say my primary residence is in Florida, Michigan, wherever, then that has to be my primary residence. You're basically allowed one primary residence. Okay.
Yep.
You can live in 2 different states.
Sure can.
But you can only declare one residence as your primary. You can't have 2 residences as your primary.
No cake and ice cream you need at the same time.
That's right. So that's kind of what's going on.
Which brings us.
We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, we will see. That brings us to the thing you said about I had a client flipping out saying, Darren, we want to leave Maryland. We found a house we think we may want to buy maybe in Pennsylvania. We're looking up in that area now. But we found out that we may get penalized and held hostage to stay in the state of Maryland. If we move out of Maryland, do we have to pay not just potential gains, or if we move there and, I'm like, don't change your license. That's the thing where they do the withholdings. They're like, no. There's another thing that was proposed. We found out that the Maryland wants to penalize you for leaving the state. Terry, what do you know about that? Is that a law? Did something get passed that we were sleeping last time that the powers that be in Annapolis met? Or is that just being proposed that they want to tax if you leave the state of Maryland?
That I don't know. I do know that if you, let's say you live in Pennsylvania as your primary state, your primary residence, and you own a house in Ocean City.
Right.
Okay. And you sell that house in Ocean City.
Yeah, you got to have to pay the withholding, right? Out of state selling withholding tax.
Correct. You've got to pay capital gains, essentially, 8 or 9%, whatever that is. It's a huge number.
Yeah.
That you have to pay if you're an out of state seller. Now, I don't know other states that do it. I know Delaware charges 3% transfer regardless of the transaction and whatever the case may be. But what you're taking a look at is if you have a primary residence in another state, you're going to get penalized tremendously for selling that house in Maryland. How do you get around it? Sell your house in Pennsylvania and move to Maryland.
Or, wait a minute, on one of our favorites, investors, though, if they have a second property, they can do a 1031 tax exchange, right?
They can do a 1031 exchange. But you're not going to escape the Maryland departure tax.
Exactly. So you're not going to escape that. So these are the things that got to pay attention to, because there is always something. But for investors, that 1031 is good if you're buying, which it has to be a like property, same amount or higher, to defer all the other taxations and things like that. And Terry and I are not CPAs. We don't give financial advice. So we would always say every time, make sure you talk to your CPA and run all those figures and numbers so that you are never surprised. Wouldn't that be good advice?
Very good advice. And if you're dealing with a 1031 exchange, let's just give it a quick plug, is, during during 04, 05, 06, 07, thousands and thousands and thousands of 1031s exchange were happening.
Yep.
After the market crash, you didn't see that so much. Not as many investors out there. What is a 1031 exchange? It's often called a like kind exchange. I own a rental house in Frostburg, Maryland, and I rent it out to college students, and I'm done renting to college students. So I sell that and I buy something in Ocean City, and it's a rental property. I'm not going to rent it to college kids in Ocean City. I'm going to rent it to families. It doesn't matter as long as you're renting it out.
Yep.
So that would be a like kind exchange.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, like kind.
Okay.
1031.
So that's a 1031. What does that do? You avoid all capital gains tax.
Gets deferred.
You have to take all of your proceeds from the sale in Frostburg and put them into the sale in Ocean City.
Right, which is a smart thing to do because it saves all that tax burden, right?
Yes.
It can do that. It could very well do that. So that's what people do to leverage and to keep pushing the can down the road. And then all of a sudden they build, I don't know, maybe generational wealth and all that fun stuff. But it is a legal thing to do. People are like, wow, there's something like this. It's legal. The government allows it. Yeah, this is like that one loopy hole fun thing that people that are wealthy or want to build wealth and all that find out, and your CPA will work through it with you, and it can be a really good thing. Who would not want to do that, right? All right, Terry, has there ever been a subject, I was sitting back thinking, has there ever been something that we haven't covered that doesn't come up a lot, that what are the most things that could blindside a seller or buyer in real estate?
Buyer or a seller?
Yep, a buyer or a seller. What could just blindside them? Like, no one ever told us this. What in the world? That kind of thing. I mean, something big.
I think it's the subject we're going to talk about, hopefully.
Yeah, this is it.
Repairs on an appraisal.
That's it. All the fun things to know about how condition matters to the appraiser. So when most people think about, oh, my house is being appraised, or, oh, as a buyer, oh, I have to have the house appraised for, for my loan. The thing that they think about is what? Primarily, they're thinking about what? The appraiser's going to do what? Value. They're going to stick a value on the house. That's just one piece of the pie, Terry. 50% of it. Could you please tell everybody out there, what is the other 50% of the pie that this appraiser's job, what they get paid to do?
Determine the condition of the property.
But they're not home inspectors.
I understand that.
But they're not home inspectors. What are they doing even thinking about the condition of the property?
So let me just interject real quickly. When you hire a home inspector, I have nothing to do with that home inspector.
Exactly.
0.0% to do with that home inspector.
Right.
If that home inspector comes back and says, your foundation is faulty, this needs to be replaced, the AC unit is on its last leg, whatever they come back with, that's between you and the seller.
Exactly.
Okay? We don't want to get involved with whatever goes on there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you say to the seller, hey, give me a credit for $5,000 towards closing costs because of some of the things that we're going to have to do, some of the maintenance that we're going to have to do, then that's fine. If the appraiser goes out there and does not say, oh, this is wrong or that's wrong or that wrong, that's because that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for overall, they're looking for different items to basically be worried about. And so they have nothing to do with each other. And so many times people will say, well, on the home inspection, it's like, I really don't get involved with the home inspection.
That's the thing. They're comparing to the home inspector saying, wait a second, the home inspector didn't see that. They didn't say anything. They didn't care.
Yeah. So what you don't want is the buyer saying, well, my home inspector said this. Do you think that the appraiser is going to require this to be fixed? And generally I stay away from that.
We have no idea what they're going to do.
Appraiser. Absolutely.
We have no idea. So that begs the big question here. So values, we talked about a little bit. We're seeing about 19% having value issues, and that's a whole different subject. Nothing to panic about. It's fine. You just got to be realistic as a seller and deal with that. And we'll talk about that another time about what you could do if it doesn't appraise on value. But buyers, value, okay, is one thing, but condition of the property is always a big one. This is the thing, Terry, that I find a lot of agents miserably fail at. I don't know how much you explain to buyers that, hey, look, in the appraiser, they're going to be looking for conditional things that have to be fixed to get your loan approved. They're going to be pretty much all safety related. They're not crazy, blah, 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 blah. And so what happens is a lot of times buyers, when I was conversation, they're coming into a home looking at it and they're thinking about a home inspector or just the fact of like, well, that ain't a big deal. They don't understand it has to pass through the appraiser thing. My son, we've dealt with that a couple times. And so people don't get it. They just think, well, why can't it just be fixed? Like, why can't the seller do it? Or why is that such a big deal? It's not a big deal to me. And that's, or here's the big one. I'll fix it later. I'll deal with that later, Mr. Agent, Mr. Lender, Mr. Everybody involved. And so people have this preconceived idea. I'm thinking, where's this coming from? Either they don't know any of it and they're totally blindsided, like, what are you talking about that has to be fixed to get my loan approved? Or I tell them about it and they have this attitude like, well, I'll do it myself, like I talked about. And so I'm like, time out. They don't understand that this can be a deal breaker, deal stopper, not because the seller's being mean, not because you as a lender, you have nothing to do with it. You don't control the appraisal. You don't even know about the condition of home unless I take pictures and send it back to you and say, hey, Terry, is this something that the underwriter or appraiser, is this going to be like a red flag? What do you think? Is there any way you can get a little, be proactive with any of that? Or like, what are your thoughts? What have you seen before? What are the guidelines? And that's the thing I want to start with, Terry, is what loan types require what for in an appraisal with inspections that they're going to do, checking things out that could potentially be red flags, okay? We know there's four kinds. There's what? USDA, VA, FHA, and conventional.
Correct.
Now, this is what the public and buyers are going to say to us. They're going to say, what's the big difference? Like, is there a difference? Well, yeah, there is a little difference here. Let's start with USDA, FHA, VA, government-backed loans, and the SNAP versus conventional. To tell everybody, what are some of the regular in-place guidelines that we kind of already know? Ooh, that appraiser is going to probably flag that and want that fixed for your loan to get approved. Talk about some of those things.
Let's talk about VA right off the bat.
All right.
VA has their own panel of appraisers. Now, a VA appraiser could be on my panel of appraisers,
Okay.
but I cannot choose a VA appraiser. The VA assigns an appraisal to the appraiser, and the appraiser basically goes through, and much like FHA, much like USDA, these are government-backed loans, okay?
Mhm.
So when the VA appraiser goes out there, he's going to look for things like peeling paint, cracked windows, missing railings, anything
Mold.
glared, mold.
4-letter word.
Yeah. Anything that the buyer will have to spend money to fix up that they don't feel is 100% safe. The government-backed loans are going to be more lenient with a buyer for their ratios, for their qualifying ratios. Also going to be more lenient on their credit. So what does the federal government want to do is they want to promote home ownership, but they don't want to put people into a home that has enough repairs that are visible, that are, on the forefront, that they're going to have to go out and put on credit cards, put on, because a lot of these borrowers with a government-backed loan, they may not qualify for that loan if they have to go out and open up a $5,000 credit card. Their ratios might be that tight that, the government says, we want you to get in the house. We just don't want you to fail. So we're going to try to eliminate that, and we're going to try to make sure that the house that you buy will be, in pretty good shape. So a lot of the little things that they look for, they'll check every electrical outlet. They'll check the GFIs, whether they're in the bathroom and the kitchen, if they're in working order, so they'll go through and make sure that a lot of the things are working. They'll,
smoke detectors, all the bedrooms.
So they will do that, find a little better job of examining a property. Now, can an FHA appraiser be a conventional appraiser? I'd say 99% of FHA appraisers are conventional appraisers. I'll even say 100%. Now, there are some appraisers out there that just do VA loans. Right. They just do VA loans. That's fine. They've made a living doing that for years and years and years. There are appraisers out there that are conventional appraisers that are not FHA certified.
There you go. There's the difference.
So there's a big difference. You have to be certified by Fannie Freddie. You have to be certified by FHA or VA or USDA. USDA's appraisal is identical to an FHA appraisal. They're going to look at the same exact things. They're going to look at the same items. They have basically the same form. Now let's talk about conventional. Conventional is not going to check every outlet. It's not going to be totally concerned about the little nicks or knacks or peeling paint or things like that. If it's blatant and looks like something that should be addressed on a conventional loan, they are definitely going to ask you to do that. So if somebody has an older home and you ask the question, what do I tell people? What I tell people is I look at every house that they're buying. I write a letter for every house they're buying. I know what that house looks like based on the pictures, and I can pretty much tell what we're taking a look at. If it's an older home that you can see, needs to be brought back to life, just because you need to upgrade kitchen countertops doesn't mean that that's going to pass or fail for FHA.
Okay.
Right? If it's functional, then it's fine. If it's outdated, no big deal. But conventional is going to be much more lenient on little items that need to be fixed.
Now, here's a big one, and I'm dealing with a whopper. I'm dealing with a fun one on the fun side of the island right now, Terry. Here's the thing I wanted to ask you. Can a buyer that starts off doing a USDA loan, no money down, 100% financing, it meets the qualification in a rural area, which it does, and all their loan to value ratios and everything checks out in their credit and blah, 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 and it's a great, great program. I love it. And then all of a sudden we get the appraisal and there is a laundry list that is huge with all these items. And then all of a sudden they're just like, whoa, wait a second. And then they come back to you as a lender and they go, can I switch this to conventional and put 3 or 5% down to avoid all this laundry list stuff and eliminate some of these things this appraiser is tagging? How does that work?
The answer is yes. You can switch it over to conventional.
Okay. And what happens? Does it minimize that list now or no?
Well, it depends on the appraiser. So the appraiser now has to look at it with an eye.
Okay.
As a conventional appraisal. Mm-hmm. It would be the same appraiser.
It would be. So not a different appraiser?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct. And
somebody's going to ask maybe why. Yeah. Like, wait a second, I'm switching loan programs. Why wouldn't it be a different appraiser?
Because if the appraiser is on your list, mm-hmm. It's on a rotation,
okay,
then you're basically going to be able to use that same appraiser that's in that rotation.
Okay.
So it comes down to pretty much what the appraiser feels he can back up. Because what you don't want, here's what you don't want. The agent and the lender, the two agents and the lender and the seller all talk the buyer into switching from a USDA to a conventional loan, mm-hmm. so it won't be as big of a list. That is true. But what happens if the borrower comes back and says, you know, I feel like I got pushed into this.
Oh.
I feel like I was not represented. I feel like that it was not in my best interest what they were saying.
Wow.
That's the can of worms that you're going to open.
Okay.
So if I'm an appraiser,
mm-hmm.
if I'm an appraiser, I'm going to think long and hard before I wipe that list down to nothing.
Because we're still dealing with safety issues mostly, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that doesn't change, boys and girls.
So it's not going to change dramatically because the appraiser in my mind or in my view is going to be, you know, if he takes all those off and then, you know, hot water heater goes bad or something goes bad and all of a sudden this buyer can't afford it. And all of a sudden they file something saying, you know,
yeah,
I was kind of forced to do this, even though they may not have been, even though they said, hey, I want to do this. So that's where you got to be very, very careful. If you start out conventionally, fine, go conventionally, go full board. If you start out USDA, be careful. If you start out USDA, FHA, same appraiser,
yep,
same
and
appraisal.
Then flip it, be careful.
And then flip it. You got to be conscientious of what are you trying to hide or get removed from that appraisal.
Yep.
You may not get the appraiser being so
forgiving in that.
Yeah,
that's great. We got 1 minute left. Here's what we're going to get into that goes bonkers, Terry. I have a house, buyer under contract, just over $200,000. Got the contractors, everybody in place to come out, check it out, and everything else like that. I knew it was going to be a pretty good amount, but we didn't think it was going to be $23,000 of lender required, loan required repairs. So now the buyer's like, holy cow, what are we going to do about this? This is crazy. This is a little bit more than we thought. Da, da, da. I said, relax. We're going to now get a strategy in place. What is it going to take? Next program, we're going to dive into this. What are the ultimate options that a buyer can take? Seller, paying the contractors, seller concessions, how much, what's allowable, escrow money held back, work done later after settlement, rehab loans. Now you have new rules, family members given loans, maybe personal loans. Who's going to pay for all this? Terry, it's getting bonkers. Next program, we're going to dive into all these strategies. What is a buyer to do when this has to be done because they still want the home because it's a great deal? Hey, folks, thanks so much for tuning to your Frederick Real Estate Update each and every Saturday here. Have a great weekend. Terry and I are always here for you. Our information to the end. Catch us, ring us, hit the bell. You guys know what to do. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care now. All right, guys, next program is going to be bonkers with all these crazy options. Get ready.